This is your First Alert Weather Breakdown, a deep dive into how weather works with meteorologist Evan Thomason.
Welcome on to the First Alert Weather Breakdown. I'm meteorologist Evan Thomason. Welcome on to the stream. First of all, it is Thursday, Friday Eve, sun's out. Can't wish for anything better. Well, that is in terms of conditions, temperatures. You might have gotten a chill walking out the door here for this morning. Hopefully it didn't surprise you. Hopefully you tuned into the forecast here this morning where I gave the forecast and let you know that temperatures were about 20 to 25 degrees colder this morning than yesterday morning. I certainly felt it just taking a single step out the door. There was a different air mass in the works here for us in the Arklatex here throughout the day today. It is still pretty chilly. The cold air has gone nowhere, and overall, we're not really going to start this warming trend until tomorrow afternoon, thankfully. Yes, we do start one coming soon, but again, not until tomorrow afternoon. Things are staying pretty chilly here for the meantime, both for this morning and tomorrow morning as well. So, also, props up to CJ for doing the First Alert Weather Breakdown here yesterday on the podcast. He did a great job, although I will say I was technically on that podcast because, Met Chat Run, for those of you here yesterday, that means all four of us. We also get, it's the one day of work week where we get Austin and Matt essentially doing portions of the First Alert Weather Breakdown as well here for this weather podcast. All right, probably your biggest headline here for the day today, though, for those of you probably here looking for info about the weekend. And yes, we do have a chance of stormy weather, unfortunately, coming around the Arklatex here for this coming weekend, putting an end to our dry, sunny stretch that has been with us since this past Saturday. And it's going to last an entire week pretty much. Yeah, the next 2 to 3 days are still looking nice, sunny, and beautiful, I will say, for the most part. But then you're going to be watching out for rain this coming weekend. Yes, we'll have more details on that later. Also, we'll have an interview. Yeah, we have somebody live here in person. Chris Nuttall with the National Weather Service Shreveport. We'll talk with him coming up later. He is already here. He's already just staring at me, but so are you. Anyways, we'll talk to him coming up, I promise, after a look at the local forecast here for us in the Arklatex. So, all right, for those of you, again, streaming on YouTube, always want to mention this to you real quick. If you have a question, let me know about the local forecast. If you also have a question for Chris, maybe, you can let us also know in the YouTube chat as well, and we can get that to him as well. That's the joy of having live chat on YouTube. So, yeah, feel free to always leave a comment, leave a question. Do whatever you got to do to communicate with us during this live stream. Want to really hone in on the word live. All right, so let's get into the local forecast here around the region. It's what, day 5? I believe day 5. Yes, it started on Sunday, and this is now day 5 of us continuing on our dry streak of sunshine. I think the only thing we've run into over the past couple of days, to be fair, has been a stray chance of rain that we actually had out for yesterday morning. But besides that, Nothing really here doing in the Arklatex. Over, again, the last 5 days or so, you've just continued to enjoy some sunshine, some blue skies. A lot more out today, certainly, than yesterday. Again, today we had that mostly dry cold front come on through, but it did give us a little bit of cloud cover here for your Wednesday around the Arklatex. All right, finally gained control of my graphics here, and we can roll on to our Matthews Landscape Best Camera as well. You get the point. We have beautiful sunshine and blue skies everywhere across the region. Here's your main headlines. Certainly the biggest change here for the day today has been the temperatures. It is bitter cold out this morning. It hasn't gotten that much better here for the later on today. We'll get to the current temperatures here in just a moment. On top of that, we're still pretty much continuing on with our sunshine train, as I've mentioned first and foremost. And most of you have noticed, especially yesterday, it was quite windy. That is still continuing on here for today and tomorrow, and honestly over the next few days as well. I will say, though, for those of you kind of keeping score and looking at the actual wind speed of things, technically speaking, I believe the winds are looking to calm down, or looking to decrease a little bit between yesterday and today, and also tomorrow and Saturday. But overall, we're expecting some windy conditions for the most part over the next several days. Next few days, I would say, all the way through Saturday. There are some little moments in time, like tomorrow morning, where winds could actually calm down a little bit, but we're, for the most part, sustaining strong winds and also low humidity levels, which is unfortunately not good for fire weather, which we have seen some of the local wildfires spark up across the region, especially yesterday. And some of that more could happen probably more towards tomorrow. I will say something that's actually helping us just a smidge here for the day today is the temperature drop in for this afternoon. Temperatures do, again, start to warm back up here into tomorrow, which could be cause for concern again with the fire weather risk. Then, to help out our fire weather risk, we do have rain coming back here for the weekend. We'll be talking about when that's going to happen coming on up. As for right now, 54 degrees in Shreveport, 52 in Texarkana, 53 in Natchitoches, upper 40s into Idabel and DeQueen currently. That does not include the feels-like temperature, though. It's, again, a little windy out. Look at those winds sustained at 21 miles an hour out of Shreveport, 18 in Marshall, 13 in Texarkana. Again, the wind gusts aren't nearly as high as yesterday, but they are still strong nevertheless. Here for the morning hours. There is one key component to changing these winds, and that is the direction in which they're coming from. The winds out of the past day or so have been coming out of the south, warm winds to help fuel those fires up with some warm air. This is winds coming out of the northwest. This is cold air creeping into the Arklatex. Although I still want to mention, though, burn bans. Again, it's still windy. We still do have low humidity levels, which are cause for concern around the region. Again, that lasts in for the next few days. So these are the burn bans we've received here at KSLA News 12 across the region. Overall, best rule of thumb anywhere around the Arklatex is just don't. This is not a good time to burn, period, and to spark up fires at all. We've seen reports of a few of just simple little fires that have unfortunately gotten a little bit out of control and have needed a little more than just a simple fire extinguisher to extinguish. So essentially, we have burn bans in effect for Caddo and DeSoto Parish across the Shreveport area. We also got reports of some burn bans that have been issued in Miller County in Arkansas and also across Morris and Marion counties, too. The latest one is from Cass County that came in about an hour ago as well. There could be more burn bans that have been issued throughout the day today. We'll let you know here in the latest at KSLA News 12. Meanwhile, back to more of the weather forecast here for you. Again, cold air settling in here for this morning and tomorrow morning, too, before we finally start to warm on up. And right around this time, this graphic does not always want to work with me because the weather models on some of the temperature outlooks with the colors that you see on the map there tend to be updating around this time. And usually when they're updating, they sometimes don't want to work. I promise this graphic worked for me during the 9 a.m. But the essential point is that we're warming up into the weekend. Today is not the weekend, though. The highs today, 64 in Texarkana, 63 in Foreman, 62 in Broken Bow. In East Texas, 63 in Marshall, 64 in Nacogdoches. Could reach up highs today up to 66 around Shreveport. Otherwise, highs settling in the low to mid-60s here for this afternoon, despite the sunshine. Again, sunshine's raising those temperatures up from the upper 30s and lower 40s that we had out this morning to the 60s, thankfully. But it's not going to reach much further than that. And then again, tomorrow morning, it is still cold. Our warming trend doesn't really start to get noticeable around here and doesn't really start until tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow morning, you still have temperatures in the upper 30s and lower 40s. Granted, I will say the wind chill isn't looking nearly as bad. It was windy this morning. It was cold and windy this morning. Tomorrow, I think it's just going to be flat out cold. It's not looking to be very windy, per se. I think we'll get actually some calm winds briefly in here for Friday morning. But still, again, temperatures dipping down into those 30s. We had lows around 39, I believe, this morning in Shreveport is the lowest I saw it go. Then we have highs peaking above 70 degrees finally, back again for Friday. And Saturday, it is back like we never left it. Highs back up into the lower 80s just in time for the weekend. Speaking of the weekend, again, highs will start to taper off just a little bit into Sunday with a little more cloud cover around. We'll get to more of that in just a little bit. On top of that, if you notice, the storms from the weekend actually dipped those highs into the upper 70s briefly for Monday. Notice how I said briefly, though. Highs overall look to carry over into the lower 80s for the bulk of next, point the right direction, work week. Future track. For today and tomorrow, it's nice and sunny. Get a little bit of cloud cover, especially for the northern half of the Arklatex, maybe in for the rest of the day and into tomorrow potentially. But overall, you're not expecting too much here for the short term. Overall, we are sunny through Saturday. Then you get into Sunday, and that's when we start to have problems. Problems that come in the form of showers and storms, and these look to be widespread showers and storms that unfortunately bring us our next chance of severe weather. Yes, these storms are likely to carry a good severe weather chance with them. We'll get to a graphic more on that in just a moment. But notice the timing of this as well. That's the main reason I wanted to show you this future track. This is a live look, or I shouldn't say a live look, but this is a future track look of what is the picture at 10:30 at night on Sunday, where there appear to be widespread storms, especially across areas of northwest Louisiana. Some of these storms could form on a Sunday afternoon, but if you have any plans, say Sunday around lunchtime and Sunday going out to mass and church and that kind of thing, I think you should be fine without the umbrella out the door. This is going to be mostly a problem for us late on Sunday, and especially the late corner of Sunday. So Saturday and at least the first half of Sunday look to be great. Just watch out for the storms late that afternoon heading into that night, especially with the chance of severe weather. Again, we want to make sure you are weather aware with us here heading into that night. Then we actually have another brief chance of a shower or storm potentially creeping in for the middle of next week. Weather models are undecided on that front, but weather models are gaining certainty on certainly the storms again that are hitting on Sunday. This is a look at the severe weather risk in the shade of yellow here with the storms associated for us on Sunday afternoon and evening. If anything, maybe the northern edge of the Arctic gets out of those storms, but overall it's looking like a good chunk of the region here is continuing to have a good chance of severe weather with those storms that are expected again Sunday afternoon and Sunday night. Now, I will say, for those of you who've been paying attention and have been with us here all work week long, specifically on the first alert weather breakdown, I've been showing this graphic for you pretty much 3 to 4 days, pretty much this entire work week, essentially, especially if you've looked on my shows, looked on the morning shows. And you will note that I showed this first thing Monday morning, and it looks almost about the same of what it does now. So Storm Prediction Center is pretty much maintaining consistency, and the confidence is growing that there will be a good chance of severe storms with this system on Sunday. So, again, watch out for that. So, full weekend forecast again here for you. The rain is coming on Sunday. Saturday, no need to worry. Highs will be in the lower 80s both days. Maybe a little cooler thanks to the more cloud cover and that rain chance around again for Sunday, but most of that rain's looking to come again. Saturday afternoon, it's going to be Sunday afternoon and Sunday night, not Saturday. Highs again, 66 today, up to the lower 80s for the weekend. Still cruising into the lower 80s for most of next work week. 10% rain chance on for Wednesday. If you look at the full 7-day forecast, though, looks mostly sunny, looks mostly dry. There's just one day out of that full 7-day forecast that'll be rainy and dealing with lots of widespread storms that could contain severe weather. And again, that's looking to be Sunday afternoon and Sunday night. So we'll give you first alert about that threat leading into that day. Last thing I'll say about that batch of storms on Sunday, it looks like our main threat with that system looks to be more towards the hail and the strong winds. Tornadoes have a chance, but it looks like more of the focus, so to speak, is around the hail and the strong winds. Again, we will keep you first alert leading up into that day. Whew, man, breaking a little bit of sweat here. Might have to hop outside and cool down. Anyways, we will have, thanks for watching the local forecast. Don't go anywhere, though. We have Chris just staring at me for the entire time, and now we get to stare at each other on camera afterward. After a quick little break, essentially, we're interviewing Chris Nuttall with the National Weather Service here in Shreveport. We're going to talk to him about some of the previous storms, some of the fire weather risks that we have around the region, see what we can maybe even look forward to heading into the future. Again, we'll talk with him after this quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in 2 minutes. See you then. All right, welcome on to the or I should say, welcome back to the First Alert Weather Breakdown, and welcome back to the First Alert Weather Breakdown, not just for you, but also for Chris Nuttall with the National Weather Service. Always great to have you. I feel like we've been trying to schedule this, just so you know, for like the past, what has it been, 2 weeks or so?
Yeah, like a couple of weeks.
And you've been, I mean, we were talking just before the podcast as well, and you've told me you've been super busy, which
Yes.
I bet. Honestly, we've had rounds of severe storms. We had tornado coverage here at KSLA News 12. Obviously, you've been a vital part of that back on March 4th. Again, some of that happened with the regional severe weather outbreak kind of all across the country that we had last Friday and Saturday. Played a vital role in that. I guess just going over the past first, I guess just some of the tornado reports have you seen out of some of these areas? Because I know you've been playing a vital component of that, especially going literally out to these places and surveying these areas.
Yeah, well, March 4th, we had a big line of storms move through our area. And I think we had, it's been so busy. I've still got a sleep-addled brain here. I'm trying to remember, I think we had something like 10 tornadoes out of that event, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
A couple here in Caddo Parish, had one, kind of in the western parts of the parish, and then one in the North Highlands area of Shreveport. Most of those were all EF1s, I believe. And we get those lines of storms. Those are actually our most frequent type of severe weather that we get, even though tornadoes tend to be not as likely with those lines, because we get those lines of storms more often than we get supercells. Most of our tornadoes come from those lines. It's kind of a very inverted way of thinking about it. And then if we skip forward to what we had just this last week, so Friday night going into early Saturday morning, we had a couple more tornadoes. Both of those were in Arkansas, in Hempstead and Nevada counties. One of those was an EF1, and unfortunately that tornado had a couple of injuries. There were a couple people that were in a mobile home that got rolled and thrown.
Yeah.
And then the other tornado was an EF2. It didn't really impact any structures directly, but caused an absolutely massive amount of tree damage. There were some places that we saw, I think it was southwest of Bluff City, Arkansas, that there were tons of trees just snapped. And, one of the things we'll look at is, kind of if there's an area where just like a sheer huge amount of trees that are snapped, that really indicates that it was a stronger tornado.
Yeah.
Now, there were some structures impacted there, but it was mostly by the trees falling on the structures. It wasn't so much the wind of the tornado actually hitting the structures.
Gotcha. I see what you mean. And we had some severe thunderstorm warnings with that system even just across the Arklatex, the bulk of the Arklatex, I should say, from East Texas, I think even into the Shreveport metro area as well.
Yeah, I know there was a point where they were looking, when stuff was moving into Shreveport, that we had the potential for some pretty big hail. I remember I worked the early part of the event and then got home. I worked from like 3 p.m. to 4:30 in the morning, and then got home when the storms were just about to roll through Shreveport. I remember getting the notice on my phone of a storm coming in with potential for baseball-sized hail. I don't think we had any reports quite that bad. I know we had some quarter-size hail.
I think.
Oh, did we? Okay.
I think Blanchard just the quarter-size hail.
Yeah, and
from
I know there was some quarter-size hail in Carthage. Where I live in North Bossier, I think I had kind of between peas to nickel-size hail, something like that. So thankfully, at least where I was, it wasn't too bad. I lived up there and went through the big hailstorm back in 2020 and had to have my roof replaced. So wasn't really looking forward to having that happen again 4 years, only 5 years later. So
you hopefully don't have to. Period or question mark?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. I don't want to do that again.
Okay. Yeah. So that's good. Obviously, just going back to March 4th, most of these tornadoes I think that you tracked as well were EF1s, lower on the scale. I know there was 10 of them, which obviously cause for concern anytime. We were on the air for 4 hours, but thankfully most of them were short-lived, I believe.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe most of them were fairly short-lived. I don't remember the exact stats on them, but
That's fine.
that's a pretty typical type of a thing with these, what we call quasi-linear convective systems. So with these QLCS embedded tornadoes, they do tend to be on the weaker side and tend to be shorter lived. Now we have plenty of cases where they're not weak and where they're not short lived.
Yeah.
But usually they're weaker and short lived.
So that's been from the, I guess, way past as of now. It's past week or two, but obviously the threat's been building here, especially over the past day or two for some fire danger, some real fire danger around here. For those of you who've kind of seen nationally or didn't know nationally, the bulk of Texas, further into Texas, I should say, central Texas and Oklahoma, have been dealing with some extreme winds and some full-blown wildfires in that area. I've seen some videos out of there. We've had some, thankfully, only little fires spark up here locally, but a good numerous amount of them around the Texarkana area, I believe were reported yesterday, which has kind of caused some burn bans as well. We have the full list of burn bans on our website at KSLA.com, but I know some of the ingredients with that are usually strong winds and low humidity levels, which we've kind of maintained here for the most part. Is there anything else I'm missing with that, or what are you seeing kind of from a forecast standpoint?
The other big thing is dry vegetation. So, when stuff starts to green up, when it gets wet and has moisture to it, then it's hard for it to really light. But if it's still dormant, which, a lot of our grasses...
from winter.
We're still dormant from winter. The green up process is starting, but it hasn't really gotten going yet. So it's still dormant. We've had a long period where we haven't had good widespread wetting rains. So it's been, these strong winds will dry it out very quickly. So it makes it really easy to light and then catch on fire. A lot of this fire weather and these strong winds that have been going on lately kind of hit kind of close to home for me a little bit. Because I'm originally from the Tulsa area. My parents are still up there when I go home and visit. One of those big fires was at a town west of Tulsa called Manford. And that's where me and my dad go and fish every time when I go home. Because it's right on the shores of a big lake there.
Oh, wow.
Played them in football when I was in high school. And so, really seeing that area impacted was kind of hit a little bit for me. And I started my career in Amarillo, Texas. And for those that were following the news, the winds out there, they were like 60, 70 miles an hour. And they had this massive pileup on Interstate 27 south of Amarillo. I think it was like a 50, 70 car, something like that, from the dust and low visibility and everything. And I'm just sitting there going, yeah, I remember those days when I worked out in the Texas Panhandle. And so, it kind of was hitting all these areas that in different ways that, were kind of home for me in a way. So,
yeah. So, as we mentioned, like the strong risk has thankfully been to the west of the Arklatex. I think mainly because, as you were mentioning, kind of stronger winds out there than here. Even though it's still been pretty breezy here, it's just not as strong as what it's been out west, from what my understanding is. So yeah, definitely wild. I think we're monitoring obviously the potential for strong winds and still dry humidity with the streak continuing on. You mentioned dry vegetation yourself. That's looking to still continue here for the most part through Saturday. Am I correct?
Yeah, until we can get some good rains in, as long as we have, breezy or windy conditions, those low humidity values, that risk for fire weather is going to continue. One thing a lot of people may not be aware of is kind of the role we play in fire weather at the National Weather Service. We produce some specific fire weather forecasts for the forestry partners in case of fires or when they're doing prescribed burns to kind of prevent some of these fires. But on active fire days, one of the things we can do is we can use the satellites in orbit to monitor. We look for these infrared channels and we look for what's called hotspots. So we can actually see fires on satellite. We can detect basically the temperature difference. We detect the hotter temperatures of the fire with satellites. And a lot of times we'll see those hotspots and we can notify the first responders in a county or parish before they actually get a phone call about it. That actually happened last Friday before the severe weather started moving through the area. we saw a hot spot on satellite in northwest McCurtain County in southeast Oklahoma. And we sent a notification to them up there. They had no idea that fire was up there. And they got up there and got it put out before it could affect anything.
It's impressive. Nice job. As I said, that's real noticeable on satellite, especially on a nice sunny day, which has been most of the
And depending on where it is, too, you can sometimes see the smoke plume on radar.
Yeah. One of the things you were also able to see on satellite from yesterday also was the smoke and haze coming from Texas, moving along that cold front, which was very peculiar.
All that smoke and all the dust from West Texas.
Yeah.
West Texas called, they want their dirt back. Is what I've been saying around the office. It's, and then when we got the rain on Friday, everybody's cars, you could see the dirty and dusty, rain prints, I guess, on your cars. Until we can get some rain in here and help clear that out, it kind of lingers in, and anybody that's kind of sensitive to that kind of stuff can definitely cause some breathing issues.
That on top of the pollen too,
Yes.
which has been out of control recently, and that's probably just from the wind, just really blowing up the flowers.
Well, and again, we're getting into that time of year where stuff is starting to green up and stuff is starting to pollinate, and
Gotcha.
so it's kind of a perfect combination of all the bad stuff for people that have sensitive breathing issues.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the questions I have as well is, obviously we have a rainy day coming up on Sunday, which will help. I guess my question is, as a particular, especially when you look at the full 12-day forecast as a whole, the only rainy day we have coming up mainly is that Sunday. So is that going to help out? How much does it help out? How long does it help out for? I guess that's my thing moving forward, especially with a fully dry 12-day forecast. Does it just depend on how much rain we get after the event?
That's absolutely it. It depends on how much rain we get, and with a lot of our shower and thunderstorms that we get this time of year, it tends to be very spotty in coverage versus, big, widespread, I say long duration, but like a couple hour or 3 or 4 hour duration, just moderate, light to moderate soaking rains. It tends to be something that's very short-lived, heavier bursts, tends to be spotty around the area. A few select locations will be lucky or unlucky, depending on your point of view, that just get dumped on, and then someplace else might see very little rain, if any. So that's kind of what we're dealing with until we can get those good wide-spreading rains across the area. And it's going to vary from location to location, just like how much rain we've gotten before now has varied. Those conditions, dryness conditions, vary. Pockets of the area are still going to continue to see problems. So, it might provide a little bit of short-term relief, but if we're still going, after Sunday, if we go another, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, and we don't get any more rainfall, we're going to kind of be back where we started, especially if we get like these windy conditions to pick up again, dry stuff out, because the wind helps to dry stuff out even faster. It's just like, blowing on something or using a hot air, a hair dryer. I don't know anything about hair dryers, obviously. I don't have any use for those. But ball guy joke.
That's a good one. Yeah.
But, those winds, any rain that we do have will help dry that stuff out even quicker. So hopefully we don't have any windy conditions that, kind of make things worse. But, we're still kind of early into spring, getting into it. So hopefully we'll get some rain in here soon. Kind of the long-term outlook for the spring is, we really don't have, and it is going to make me sound wishy-washy, but we don't really have any strong indications right now of whether we're going to be wetter than normal, drier than normal, or right at normal.
Middle of the road.
Right. Yeah. Now it does look like we'll be warmer than normal, but there's no strong indications of what the precipitation trends will be.
Gotcha.
And that's a very typical outlook for a weak La Nina pattern, which is what we're in right now.
I think the last thing I'll ask you, was going to be about the long term, obviously. From what you've discussed, I mean, most of the spring months are always severe weather season, but I think last year we saw our main severe weather risks until Beryl happened, obviously. But most of the severe weather risks from typical cold fronts coming on by last through May. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah,
we're kind of the beginning of severe weather season.
Our main tornado season is typically March, April, May.
Yeah.
Now our severe weather season really continues into mid to late June. When we get into late May, the risk for tornadoes starts to taper off, but it starts to transition more into damaging straight line wind events. We go into a pattern of what we call northwest flow, and that's where the winds aloft right now tend to be more southwesterly or westerly, but they transition more to northwesterly aloft. And we'll get these big storm complexes form to our northwest and then get steered down by that flow into our area. Sometimes the remnants of those systems, outflow boundaries, those kinds of things, they'll move down into our area and fire up again the next day. Cold fronts will move down from the northwest to southeast and help trigger stuff in our area. That's how we were getting those derechos the last couple of years. Those derechos were a little bit unusual for us, but the overall setup with the northwest flow is not unusual. But that tends to move us more into where the primary threat is damaging straight line winds, which honestly can kind of be worse than a tornado because it tends to be a much more widespread area of damage that can be produced. So
tornadoes very, very thin usually.
Right. So just because we might not necessarily be dealing with as many tornadoes in June, we're still going to be in severe weather season. So it's still going to be, people still need to be prepared and still be weather aware.
Yeah. Well, we know it's the start of the season, so
Got a long way to go.
We'll keep on rolling. We got a long way to go, me and you both.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you very much. You got anything else? I think that's all the questions I got for you.
Yeah. No, that's it. We got that severe weather risk coming up on Sunday. It's possible we may have some in the days after that. We're just in mid-March. Our peak of severe weather season, really our peak of tornado season is in April. So we haven't got there yet. So, anytime there's a threat for severe weather, just folks need to stay aware and keep an eye to the sky and have multiple ways to get weather information and be ready if severe storms are headed their way.
Yep, absolutely. You and I will be at the forefront of that, that's for certain.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, thanks for joining us. First Alert with a Breakdown. Thanks again, Chris, for coming along. I'll see you again tomorrow, 10:30. Be there, be square. Most importantly, be weather aware. See ya, and have a great rest of your day. Again, thanks, Chris, for joining us on First Alert with a Breakdown. Peace out.